water on the condenser to keep it cool. Clutch disengaged so the prop isn't spinning. A little bit of water carryover, making it click. Wayward Belle. First run in a while, I think since 2018, so almost 5 years. Driveway test, had some issues, tried to take it to Lake Lahontan. Found an O-ring that was leaking fuel everywhere. Didn't have an O-ring on board, so I had to tow it all the way back home. I got the new Viton or Floormaster fluoroelastomer O-ring from McMaster Car, and now she's much happier. No more fuel leak. See the clutch. Okay, just the prop. A little noisy. The cutlass bearing needs to be replaced. And it's also not lubricated with water, being out of the water. Takes about 5 minutes to get steam up. It's a monotube steam generator, about 22 square feet of heating surface, 1/2 inch solid drawn tubing, and a bunch of coils with a kerosene vaporizing burner as the burner, similar to Simpson Strickland or Loon Valley type burner. Engine is a compound 2-inch by 4-inch by 3 1/4 inch stroke. High pressure has a piston valve, low pressure has a balanced slide valve. Condensate goes to a condenser, then back up, goes through a heat exchanger, and then the condenser, and then the return condensate goes through the heat exchanger before going into the hot well, so that it's warm enough, or stays warm or stays hot, and prevents reabsorption of oxygen before it is pumped back into the boiler. Boilers are very simple. It can be very simple. This one's pretty complex with all the automatic controls, which are based on temperature and pressure. It can be pretty complex for setting up and tuning. This is a split section of the tubing. You can see for the boiler. See how thick it is. That is what the boiler is made of. All code, ASME code, so it can be operated without worrying about running into regulations, things like that. And besides which, the whole plant holds in an entirety, including the hot well, about 2 gallons of water. Generally, when she's running full out, all these gauges will be about vertical, except for the receiver pressure for the low pressure cylinder and the vacuum gauge for the low pressure cylinder. Those will be a different position, but otherwise, generally everything else is at all perfectly vertical on the pins on the gauges, or needles on the gauges. So quick glance should tell you if something is not right. Reverse. Still a little bit of water in those cylinders. Pumps there are 2 condensate pumps and 2 feed pumps. They run off a worm gear off the front of the crankshaft and the engine. They run quarter speed of the engine. The engine runs maximum 800 RPM, so the pumps run at quarter of that, so they run maximum of 200 RPM. Running slow like this, it's not as efficient, so you're going to have a little bit of condensate. It builds up in the cylinders until everything gets hot. You can hear the burner, it's not very loud. Nice low roar, rumble. Nice clean stack, no smoke. Obnoxious little Lunkenheimer. And then a 4-chime. Funny story about that 4-chime whistle. One time I steamed up the boat at Fallen Leaf Lake, and I was showing a friend, and I blew the whistle. The whistle valve stuck, and as you can see, there's no isolation valve from the whistle valve to the rest of the boiler. Lucky for me, the monotube boilers don't hold a lot of steam in them, so I had to shut off the fire while the whistle just blew and blew and blew and blew until the whole plant ran out of steam, which was about 10 minutes, maybe a little less. It felt like 10 minutes, but especially once you have a whistle blowing in your ear. That particular whistle doesn't sound that great when it's cold or when you first initially blow it, but after it's been sounding for about 5 minutes, it's nice and hot and sounds great, except for then your patience is worn thin. Set y'all down, you can go to the engine for a moment. So the burner will automatically cycle on and off. The feed water will automatically cycle on and off when pressure and steam temperature dictates. It'll actually, if the steam temperature gets too hot, the burner will cut out. And also will introduce water into the D superheater. That's where it cools the steam down before it goes into the engine. And then also if the steam pressure gets too high, sorry about that, it'll cut out the feed and cut the burner, because part of the action of feeding water into the boiler, it helps create pressure in the boiler by giving the boiler water to flash into steam. It seems kind of counterintuitive in a way, but the more you understand the system, it starts to make sense. When I got this boat from Mr. Grosjean, Charles Grosjean, he gave me a whole set of books and instructions on how to operate the boat. Because one really needs it, especially the starting sequence. And we found out, Mr. Grosjean and I found out that one little typo made all the difference in starting the boat. How much of it I was really struggling for a while there when I first got it. And after having picked it up from him, and once we figured out what the typo was, the starting sequence was pretty easy. It makes all the difference. Shutting down is as simple as turning off the fuel to the burner, opening up both feed pumps to the boiler, letting the engine consume the last of the steam. Pressure's already coming down. And it's starting to slow down. I do have all the patterns for this engine and all the controls, and at some point I'd like to make them available as complete kits or as just casting kits or machine kits. Someday in the future, perhaps. Weighs about 200 pounds, I think, total. Which is something somebody could relatively easily lug around, make in their basement and haul up. Yeah. That's all, folks. Thanks for watching.